I was like, that's brilliant. I think that's immediately where I was like, oh, the show's actually kind of funny.
Yeah.
Spaced was a show that I really wasn't sure when it could take place.
Spaced was co-created by Simon Pegg and Jessica Hines.
Spaced was full of surprises.
Hey everybody, and welcome to Fallingtower's Watch the First podcast in which we watch the first episode so that you don't have to. With us, as always, is Mr. Michael Kenyon Rosenberg.
We do this for you, so you don't have to watch the first of things.
And joining us, one of our very first guests ever, the very special and talented Lila Shacker. By the way, Lila Shacker created an aspect of this show that we ended up keeping forever. And that's the very end of the show when we say, this podcast was...
I thought that was going to be a surprise at the end that will say, oh, by the way.
It is. No, but for those of
you guys kept it.
For those of you that want to see it, the very first episode, WTF number 1, check it out. At the end, Lila said it.
It was number 2.
I looked at my notes. It said number 1. Well, look at them both. 1 and 2.
1 and 2, all of them.
Oh, maybe it was 1. I don't know. Who knows?
Anyway, so today we are reviewing Spaced. 1999 British comedy, right? Oh, and this was suggested.
You watched the correct one.
This one was suggested to us by Eve England. Good old Eve England out in Wales gave us 2 really good suggestions.
Oh, cool.
So the way we like to start it off, Mr. Michael Kenyon Rosenberg, what was this about?
Spaced is a British television sitcom created, written by, and starring Simon Pegg and Jessica Stevenson now. I guess her name changed. Her name was Jessica Stevenson, and now it's Jessica Hines.
Okay, okay.
It was directed by none other than Edgar Wright. It's about the comedic and sometimes farcical and action-packed misadventures of Daisy Steiner and Tim Bisley, 2 20-something Londoners who, despite only having just met, decide to move in together after she gives up on squatting and he is kicked out by his ex-girlfriend. In this episode, after meeting by chance, Daisy Steiner and Tim Bisley decide to pose as a couple to rent an apartment whose landlord requires a professional couple.
So now what we do is we talk about what we expected versus what we got. We will start with what we expected before we watched any of this, before we knew anything about it, or maybe after we knew something about it. What did you expect, Michael?
Well, I have watched this whole series in the past. And so I had kind of heard that it was full of lots of nerd humor and pop culture references. And so that's what I was expecting, again, this time when I was watching it. Nerd humor and pop culture references.
What about you, Lila? What did you expect before you watched any of it?
I really had no idea. I had no idea what to expect. I guess after I looked up the synopsis that was on Hulu, I figured it out a little bit. But at first, just by the title and stuff, I thought it was going to be something like farcical, sci-fi though. I thought something like that, something maybe a little bit spoofy. But I think I got a lot, it was a lot more than what I expected. There was a lot more aspects to it than what I thought it was going to be. So I was very pleasantly surprised.
Yeah, I'll tell you what I expected. I expected a sci-fi show.
That
is
Spaced.
Yeah.
And Simon Pegg, I thought it was, and in the first, well, we won't talk about the first second, but But that's what I expected. I expected a sci-fi comedy. That's what I thought it was.
You expected a sci-fi comedy, even though I told you it wasn't science fiction?
I guess I forgot. Well, once I saw it, I was like, oh, that's right. I remember making that mistake a few weeks ago when we talked about this show, right? That must have been when you told me that. Because I had forgotten. And then when I first saw it, I was like, oh, that's right. Ugh. But we'll talk about that when we get to what do we get. Michael, what did we get? What did you get?
So what I got was a sitcom, British sitcom, that was full of a lot of nerd humor and pop culture references. Exactly what I expected.
Okay. What about you, Lila? What did you get?
Oh my gosh. It's a very British show. So the humor in it is extremely like dry and it's funny, but you can't you have to be like paying attention for the full 30 minutes, no getting distracted by any shiny things. But I got that, and then it's also just very quirky and quirky and surprising and dry. I think the humor in it is really dry as well.
Yeah, I had a similar feeling there. That's kind of for me too, was the first line I wrote in my notes was, oh no, it's British humor. Like in the first second,
I was like, oh yeah, British humor.
I mean, this is like the third show in a row that's British. I mean, what was the other one that we did? Red Dwarf.
Red Dwarf.
That was so painful.
It was good, yeah. It was fantastic.
And I was just like, the first second, and it was like kind of grainy and low quality, and it's just British people saying, oh, hello. And I was like, oh, shit, I'm going to die. This show is going to be the death of me, dude. I'm just gonna keep watching British humor until I die. I didn't die, spoiler alert. What I got was a good show, actually. That's what I got, surprisingly.
All right.
Yay!
not a great one, but anyway. It was cool. It was good. It was well written. Something I noticed towards the end, but something that really added to it was, tell me what you guys think of this. The editing and the sound editing that they would put in to really hammer home like a facial reaction or a punching sound and what? Huh? That kind of stuff was actually made it funnier.
That's all Edgar Wright right there. That's kind of his trademark style. If you've ever seen the movie Scott Pilgrim versus the World, or Hot Fuzz, or Shaun of the Dead, that's kind of one of his trademarks, is kind of the quick cuts to different stuff, and then also, so the cuts kind of help to punch home the humor, but then also, the sound effects and stuff like that.
I really like the quick cuts. I like that a lot. I think it makes it, I think it adds humor. And then also they weren't doing, I feel like throughout the episode, but like the last half maybe, the way they were like doing time lapses of like 1 hour later or still more time later, I thought that was kind of cool and unique, how they incorporated like actual props in the scene and stuff like that. But I also feel like that came out of nowhere.
You said the guy's name is Edgar Wright?
Edgar Wright. And so as you can see, like the ashtray is the O.
Yeah, exactly.
The narrator. Yeah, that's totally Edgar Wright right there. Yeah.
Okay. What else has he done besides whatever it was you just said? I already forgot.
Those things, yeah.
Okay, that's it. Okay.
So after Spaced, he did Shaun of the Dead, which is a zombie comedy with Simon Pegg and Nick Frost that were both in this show.
He did that. That did really well.
Yeah, and then Hot Fuzz, who also is starring Simon Pegg and Nick Frost, that are both in this show. And then also The World's End, which are also starring Simon Pegg and Nick Frost, that are both in this show.
Was Nick Frost the guy?
His buddy Mike, the weapons expert.
I mean, in this show, there was a weapons expert?
I don't think he was like in it for half a second, right?
It's
in the pilot.
His best friend Mike, the weapons expert.
Oh, okay. All right.
And
but it wasn't like the guy that came in as that had a band or whatever.
Yeah, no, the van, yeah, the camouflage van.
Oh my god, that may have been the only scene. No, there are two scenes that made me laugh out loud. I think that was when he handed his box to some guy and the guy just throws it in the back of the van.
Yeah, that guy. That's Nick
I
Frost.
laughed so hard at that.
Yeah.
That was so good. The other scene that made me laugh a lot was, well, not laugh a lot, strong. That made me laugh was the twin girls that scared them.
Yeah.
And actually, the only one that maybe actually literally made me laugh out loud, literally actually laughing out loud, was when the gremlin bodysuit fell on the woman. That was funny because she freaked out so hard.
Yeah.
Did you guys have it? Well, Mike probably had like 100 laugh out loud moments.
Yeah, I did. Yeah. Even though I've seen this is the third time watching this first episode too, and I still laughed at all the different parts. My favorite part, though, is when they meet Brian.
Oh yeah, that
the artist downstairs. What do you do? I'm an artist. Oh, what do you paint?
Pain,
anger, aggression, fear. And it cuts to him like doing his crazy stuff. That character is just my favorite character in this first episode, at least. He's so funny because he's like aloof, but then you can help. He's got that crazy like stare, that kind of 1,000-mile stare where he's just like looking off.
Mm-hmm.
Lila, how many times did you actually laugh out loud watching this?
I think 2. 2 or 3. Maybe 3. I think Brian made me laugh, but I liked when he said that he lived at the bottom or whatever, and they were like, "So are you gay?" And they kept asking him that.
But are you gay? And he's like,
Yeah, exactly. I thought that was funny. And then there was another one where it's like it was so subtle I had to think about it for a second. But when Simon Pegg's character is showing Daisy his comic book drawings or whatever, and as he's showing, she looks at it and like reminds me, the rubbish has to be taken out like at this time. I'm like, oh, that's so mean. But again, it was something that I have to like think about it for a second.
What about you, Ryan? I guess you told us the 2 parts that
there were 3
really
funny
liked.
parts, but the one that actually made me make a sound with a real laughter was when the gremlin fell on that poor lady. I don't know why that was so funny, but it did make me laugh because it's kind of such a big, silly, stupid costume. But I could see how she's just looking around, like, especially with the scary music kind of playing in the background. Right. She's looking, and just this thing falls on her with giant teeth, and I just thought that was funny. I would like to see more people have giant gremlin suits fall on them and watch their reactions.
The one scene that made me laugh out loud the first time I saw it, but I knew it was coming this time, so it didn't really have that same shock value, was when they're talking about oh, I'm a bit of a detective. Oh, like Scooby-Doo. Yeah, I was always a bit of a Daphne. Oh yeah, I was Fred. And then it pans out, and it's like she's obviously Velma, and he's obviously Shaggy. Yeah.
Shaggy. Yeah, that was funny too.
Actually, I'll tell you, this show was better than I expected. And there was a lot of humor in it. And although I do not like British humor, I didn't think that this was particularly British humor.
It's not really traditional British humor.
Right. I mean, it was just takes place in Britain.
I wouldn't call it American humor, though, either.
No.
It's kind of a skewed humor, which is what I love about this show.
It reminded me a little bit of like Train Spotting and old movies like that. They were kind of a little grainy, kind of a little dirty, low budget.
But you can tell that this is very low budget for sure. But I mean, you have to hand it to Edgar Wright that he did a lot with a little bit, only a little.
Right. It almost looked like a student film production value, honestly. But it was the meet cute was great. I don't know if they end up dating or what, but the actual meeting between the two main characters I thought was really good. There were a lot of funny parts. One was when he says, she says, "You've got no memory of Christmas of 1979. He's like, "Mind you, I've got no memory of Christmas of 1994.
Mhm.
Yeah.
He says, "Why?" And she goes, "Why? I don't know."
I don't know.
And then
I
you
told
think
you I
about
have
it.
no memory. Yeah.
Yeah, you think about it. You're like, "Oh yeah, do I remember every Christmas?"
Yeah. And also, why would you know why you don't have a memory of something that you don't remember?
True. Oh, Simon Pegg crying. His cry, that made me laugh out loud. Yeah, his
You don't have to cry.
yeah, his crying, that was pretty funny.
I mean, I got a whole list of that. That's kind of what jumped out at me initially was I didn't expect to like it. And then after the first couple minutes, they kind of hit you with funny part. That was legitimately funny, I thought, not just like, pants falling down or grandma slipping on a banana peel, which is good stuff too.
I'm an assistant manager. Well, it's just me and Bilbo, but
yeah. So I did write like funny next to a bunch of things. I'll tell you a few of them. It was funny when the lady was leaving her shithole, is what I called it, when she was like, "So anyway, I'm leaving now." And then that's all you need to know about why she's moving out.
Right.
Like she's like, "I'm getting out of this shithole."
It's like an opium den or something. Like they're all just kind of like lying on the floor, like in drug-induced comas, and
right. And then the part where I said the dude tosses Scotty's box into the van. I just kept calling him Scotty because he plays Scotty in Star Trek.
Yeah.
Anyway, lots of good things right there. But what I thought was a good way to introduce characters, really smart way to introduce characters, was them studying up on each other. Right? That's a great way to say, "Oh, you did this, you graduated in this high school, you did all this."
That's cool.
And so you're learning all about these main characters without it seeming like it's a contrived way to do it, right?
Right.
Yeah.
That's all I got on that.
Yes. Very smart. Well, and it's like, so obviously they're the premise, like I said, they're pretending to be a professional couple so that they can move into this apartment. The landlady obviously just wants a professional couple because she's probably looking for stability in her tenants. And so she wants people that can work, that are working, and she wants a couple because, that's like two incomes. And so they can obviously pay their rent. But it's funny because they're like later on, when it's sometime later when their landlady Marcia comes to join them and they're talking to her sometime later still, and then they're like, what is it? 5 years, 8 months, and 2 days, and she's like, "That's what you said 2 days ago."
Yeah,
and they're like, "Yeah, but we have 2 anniversaries." And it turns out that the way that he worded it, and then Brian's like, "So wait, you made love before you kissed?" And they're like, "Yep, that's what happened. Yep."
How did you feel about that, Lila?
I thought it was funny. I thought that part was funny as well. I didn't laugh out loud, but I was like, "Oh, okay, I see what they did there." But yeah.
There's so many little things. Like she's like trying to telepathically communicate with him, and he doesn't hear it until after they leave, and then she's like, and then she says something.
That was brilliant. I love that.
He's like,
yeah. I thought it was brilliant where she's like, "Times like this, I wish I was telepathic, don't you?" And the camera looks over him, and she's like, "Damn it." Yeah, that's funny. That's smart, funny. I thought.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah, it is. I feel like. I mean, I explained it as like British humor, but I feel like the show has that humor where they're trusting that the audience is intelligent enough to get it versus like bashing them over the head with like explaining it, which I don't think you get a lot from like sitcoms over here necessarily.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, over here, especially back in the late 90s, it was all 3-camera sitcoms where you got a live studio to audience, that the canned laughter, and they're laughing whenever the applause sign lights up or whatever. I agree. I think that's a very good astute observation that they're trusting that you're going to get the joke because they don't have a live studio audience to tell you when to laugh.
Yeah.
Like Red Dwarf. Good grief. Can we talk about Red Dwarf for a second?
No.
They weren't even saying anything funny, and the canned laughter was coming in, and they didn't even do anything funny.
We already talked about Red Dwarf is the thing.
So disappointed.
And you didn't even want to talk about Red Dwarf when we were talking about Red Dwarf, and now you want to talk about Red Dwarf?
It's retroactive. Every episode from here on out, I'm going to throw shade at Red Dwarf. I'm very disappointed that it exists.
Right you're the one that did say that you wanted to watch the second of Red Dwarf. So
I don't remember that.
Well, we can go back and look at the footage and rewatch it. Is the beautiful thing about YouTube, because it's up there for all of eternity now. So
I'm pretty sure I said no way.
Your shame has been encased in eternity.
So, if there was anything that you could change about this show, because look, it was funny, it was well written, it was smart. Was there anything you didn't like? Were there characters that didn't work, or scenes that didn't work, or a joke that fell flat, Michael?
Nope.
I knew it.
No.
You just love British stuff.
If I could change one thing, I would give them some more money so they could make it look better. Because obviously they're just trying to, probably the BBC didn't give them any money. And they're like, all right, if you guys want to make something, then we'll put it up. But, no guarantees. And then they went out and made something brilliant with no money at all. And so I would give them some money so they can make it look better.
What about you, Lila? What would you do to make this thing less of a terrible show?
Well, I think it was not a terrible show, but I will say, I have to be politically correct here. I started it not really knowing what to expect. I was almost kind of is this apartment going to be is it haunted or and that kind of confusion kind of stayed throughout, which made me a little bit distracted from some of the humor, because I was kind of I was watching it, but I'm also what is this show actually about? So I think just making that a little bit more straightforward from the beginning, because I wasn't really quite sure what the trajectory of it was or what to expect.
Ryan?
That makes sense.
Yeah, I think those are great points. I would definitely give it a little bit more money, because I kind of found myself being a little distracted by it, and then going why are they taking Polaroids? Does anybody still do that? 1999, did people still do but I was yeah, I guess they do. Yeah. So I guess that works, but I just felt it was really grainy. I felt the picture quality, the lighting quality was just not very good. The sound quality wasn't very good. It was just, it felt like a student film. It felt like a well-written and well-directed student film. And what was good about the directing was that it accepted what it was. It realized that they weren't going to be able to put, lipstick on a pig. So just make the pig funny. You know what I mean? He wasn't trying to clean up. The sound effects sounded cheap. The cuts looked cheap. Everything kind of looked cheap, but it just made it funnier. So he accentuated, things that worked. And so I thought that was really smart. I don't know if he does that on high quality things, which may not work, or if he just specifically honed his directing skill into that direction for this one. So I would have liked to give him better production quality, but it worked all around. I wasn't bothered by any of it. Sometimes it's hard for me to understand British people when they talk. Again, I had to use the subtitles on a couple. I'm what are these guys saying, dude? Got marbles in your mouth.
I will just to throw it out there that I love the British accent. So, for anybody watching,
that's
That is
That's
Space
so
plus
weird.
for me.
Mike, have you ever heard a lady say she likes a British accent? I sure haven't.
Yeah, about 1,000,000 times, I guess. So.
I'm surprised.
Oh, I wanted to point out one thing. You don't really get to hear him speak in this episode, but the guy Dwayne that Tim's ex-girlfriend left him for, he actually does the voice of Darth Maul in Star Wars Episode 1.
Wow.
Yeah, yeah. So when the guy who says, "At last we shall reveal ourselves to the Jedi. At last we shall have our revenge." That's this guy. That guy.
That's the one quote.
That's the one line that he has in that movie, and that's this guy that Tim's girlfriend left him for. So you get to hear him talk, and you get to see more of him throughout the series. By the way, there's only 14 episodes in the series. That's one good thing about British comedies is they're short. I think it's two seasons, what they call them series, 2 series. And there's only like 7 or 8 episodes per series. And so it's real easy to binge watch these British comedies because there's so few shows, so few episodes.
So that's it. Just 14 episodes and the entire show is over.
Yep.
Wow.
Well, we'll have to cover that at the very end. Whether
Pretty sad, really.
Nice. That's 2 in a row.
Yeah.
Mike's doing a quote from a friend of ours that I don't know. We talked about it in the last. It's really not. It's pretty sad. Really.
Yeah. Not really noteworthy, but we noted it in 2 episodes in a row.
Yeah, that's the exact quote. He says, "It's pretty sad, really." That's a bigger laugh than it deserves. Also
in context, though, it was pretty funny. So
it was pretty. Also funny when he said, "Your boyfriend Richard is studying in Hull, right?"
Hull, yeah.
Right. So their names were Daisy and Tim. Is that right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. This is a part of the show where I like to ask the same question. I like to say, you know what? Who is your favorite character? Michael, you probably have one that we haven't even seen yet, but who is your favorite character?
I said it a little bit earlier. It's Brian.
Brian.
He's my favorite. Yeah.
Why?
What? Yeah. Anger, pain, fear, aggression. I just love him. He's hilarious to me. I'm only talking about this episode. Also, I don't really remember him from the rest too much. I kind of remember a little bit of everybody because it's been so long since I watched this in its entirety. I kind of started. I wanted to start watching it again. I showed it to my wife. She wasn't crazy about it, so we just watched the first episode. And then I watched the first again to refresh myself for doing this podcast. So, but yeah, just even in this first episode, he kills it, in my opinion. So.
Lila, did you have a favorite?
I would say based off of just the pilot, Tim probably would be my favorite. I love Simon Pegg. He's just funny. He's just funny. But then I also I very much empathized with how heartbroken he was throughout it all, and his girlfriend was so horrible.
Yeah.
And when he calls Daisy Sarah by accident.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then her boyfriend calls, and then he's like, "I love you, Daisy Duke," and she's like, "I love you, Boss Hog." I can't hear you. I said, "I love you, Boss Hog." Who was that? That was Boss Hog.
Yeah, that was also maybe that was my favorite character, was his ex-girlfriend.
What? She's terrible.
Yeah.
She's horrible.
Yeah. Because of the line where, he's like, "I'm leaving you," and he's trying to kind of really stick it to her and make her jealous or whatever it is. And then she says, "Well, do you love her?" And he's like, "No, I love you," or whatever. And she's like, "Okay, good."
And slams the door in his face.
She's basically like, "All right, go have your fun. As long as I know that you're still obsessed with me, then I still win."
Yeah.
What a terrible human, and I love it. I don't remember exactly how she said it. I
I think you pretty much nailed it.
Yeah.
I think that was
he
what it
says
was.
like, I will love you more than like anyone.
Right.
Like,
There's
is
nobody in this
capable of
universe that
loving,
will ever
like,
love you as much as I will.
I love you. And then she's like, okay. And then closes the door. Terrible.
Yeah.
Good. I'm going to go screw Darth Maul.
Yeah, it was a good character piece right there, because it lets us know who she is, where she's like, she was concerned that he was kind of doing all this stuff, and then when she found out that he loved her still, she's like, okay, cool, and then for him it just makes him look pathetic, which is great. But of course that makes us root for him to fall in love with the girl that also has a boyfriend, who, by the way, they said she was born in 1975 and this thing takes place in 1999. No offense, but I'm like, that 50-year-old does not look 24 to me.
No. That math doesn't add up, though.
Yeah, if she was born in 1975 and the thing takes place in 1999, that means she's 24. And what I'm saying is that 50-year-old lady...
No, she might be 50 now. I mean...
No, what I'm saying is she looked 50, and they're trying to tell us that she's 24. And I'm saying
she
no.
She looked like maybe she was in her 30s. I wouldn't say 50s, though.
Whatever. Anyway, I was like, wait, what? I don't know. Never mind. I thought she looked way older than 24.
Ryan, no.
I don't know. What did you think, Lila? Did she look 24 to you?
She didn't look 24.
No, I mean, she could have been in her 30s, but I mean, she didn't look 50.
She looked like she was 25.
All right, we'll stick with 40. Stick with 45 then. Anyway, you guys have any characters you didn't like or you thought didn't work?
No. I thought all of the characters like added something that the show, like, it was necessary for the show to have.
Right. Well, then you've got I mean, you just get these slight introductions to a couple people, like Daisy's best friend Twist, who works in fashion, but she works at a dry cleaner. Like, we see her at a dry cleaner. My friend Twist, she works in fashion.
It's funny. I missed that. That's funny.
Yeah, it was just one quick line. You have it's when they were telling each other about themselves. You have a best friend, Mike. He's a weapons expert. Your best friend's name is Twist. She's in fashion.
Yeah, were there? I guess all the characters were fine. I didn't like the main character Daisy at first. I thought she was kind of didn't work for me. I don't know why, but later on it worked. I feel like all the characters are just kind of like dumb and weird and homely.
Right.
And that's kind of the charm of the show, I think.
Well, I think that's why they call it space, too, because they're all kind of low intelligence people getting stoned all the time, too. So,
which was a great opening line, was when he says, "What are you looking for?" She's like, "What have you got? What have you got?"
I love that.
I was like, that's brilliant. I think that's immediately where I was like, oh, the show's actually kind of funny.
Yeah.
Well, Lila, let's talk about you for a second, if that's okay with you.
That's okay with me.
Great. So, dressed in orange, very bright and festive color. You are an actress. You also write and produce your own short films, right?
I do. I mostly do sketch comedy. But yeah, I'm working, hopefully, the beginning of next month, I'm going to be working on a new sketch that I wrote. So I'm very excited about that. I'll be posting that shortly after. So yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
Can you give us any juicy tidbits about it?
It's called Talk Decoded. And essentially it's formatted like an educational video, but it's basically teaching people like what men and boys will say versus what they actually mean in different scenarios. But there is a disclaimer that not all men partake in this behavior, but I think it'll be pretty funny. So I'm looking forward to filming.
You're trying to say that men sometimes say something differently than they mean?
Never. Yes, absolutely what I'm saying.
Hey! No.
Not all men, though. I love that
And
you
not
had to.
all. Yeah, I did. And there actually will be a disclaimer in the
That's so
video.
funny.
Yes.
Yeah, because somebody's gonna be like, well, not all men, or
Oh.
hey, I'm a man and I don't say that stuff. I resent that.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's a joke, dummy.
Yes, have to keep it PC over here. But yeah, I'm looking forward to that.
When are you gonna shoot that?
Hopefully the beginning of next month. I wrote it a while ago and was planning to film, and then everything with the pandemic and everything happened, so that kind of got pushed back. So yeah, hopefully the beginning of next month. Take like a day to shoot it and then edit it and then get it out there as fast as I can. Yeah, but looking forward to it.
Obviously we can't really go out for auditions right now. Things are kind of slowed down. What do you usually get cast as? Do you have like a type that you usually get?
It's been interesting. It's a little all over the place. But usually I had a commercial agent, and I would usually either go out for, I'm half Egyptian, so I would go out for like hijab wearing Muslim women, or like sexy, crazy Latina. So very different, but yeah, those are.
Even though you have no Hispanic in you, right?
Zero.
But people can't tell. You're like, yeah, I'm Hispanic, whatever. I'm from
Like,
Paraguay.
Ethnically ambiguous. That's
Yeah.
what I go with. Ethnically ambiguous. But yeah.
Is there a role?
Like the mean girl. I go out for like the mean girls and stuff like that as well.
Yeah, I can see that.
Yeah.
No, you play it well. We've seen your short films where you do this kind of move.
I know. And yeah, it's all pretend. I'm super nice.
We can vouch for that, right, Mike?
Yeah, I can vouch for that for sure.
Oh, Thank you.
Now, Lila, is there a role or a type that you've always wanted to play, or a genre? Like, have you ever always wanted to be in sci-fi, or have you always just wanted to play the wacky neighbor like Kramer, or do you want to be like a psycho?
I love like action comedy, or like a show like Brooklyn Nine-Nine or something like that. I would love to be on something like that where it's...
Hey, WTF Brooklyn Nine-Nine.
Oh, yeah.
It's a good one.
Yeah. Yeah, something like that would be, I think, I would love to do something that still involves humor, but also involves, some action and stuff like that. Like I watched The Spy Who Dumped Me last night.
I've been wanting to see some Mila Kunis
fun.
or something.
Yeah. So stuff, yeah. The comedy and the action. Yeah.
You also write and produce your own projects. Have you ever considered, or have you ever worked on just writing a full feature-length script or a pilot?
I wrote a pilot. I wrote 2 pilots, and I'm working on rewriting one of them right now, which is like a whole other beast, I feel like. But I'm enjoying that. I'm enjoying that a lot. It's just that the fun thing about, I feel like, the sketch writing is like I come up with an idea, and then I'm like, okay, I'm gonna get some of my friends together, and we're just gonna like film it in a day. Whereas with a pilot, like I'm on like my 3rd rewrite right now, and even when it's done, it's like, okay, now what do I do? But
well, if you get a pilot picked up, we'll have you back, and we will watch the first of your pilot.
Yay!
We'll dissect it.
Like it. Yeah.
And we'll be like, scale of 1 to 10, what do you give it? We'll be like, 10.
Yeah.
I'll make sure to put a bunch of British humor in it, and it'll be great.
Ryan would love that. He's shaking his head yes right now.
Michael, what would you cast Lila as if you were a casting director?
I would cast her as a ethnically ambiguous sweetheart.
Oh yeah, like a rom-com. Have you ever done a rom-com thing? Like any kind of romantic comedy, short film that you've written, or role that you've gone out for?
I wrote like a very short romantic comedy kind of film. Yeah. I did that. And then I'll go out for them every once in a while, but yeah. But I would love to.
That sounds cool. And you're all over social media, right? So people can check you out on social media, your Instagram, your Twitter.
Not on
like
Twitter, but Instagram.
Good. Twitter's crazy, dude.
Yeah. I think I have an account, but I don't do anything with it. So Instagram.
Great. We will include all of that information in the description box below. Also, anything else that people might want to know about, like maybe your IMDb page, they can check out all of your cool projects.
Yeah.
We can check out how many Fallingtower short films you've been in. What is it, like?
Yes, there's a few.
One? Is it one or two?
There's a couple that I've like been in, and then you guys have had some of my content on your page.
That's right. Yeah, quite a few now. Then actually, in total, that's true.
Yeah.
And our buddy Darth was in it. No, you guys check it out. Lila's got some great stuff. We'll link the some of the short films she's done on her own. Other times she's done some, and we put it actually on this channel. Really good stuff. She's one of those up and coming YouTube stars. Really exciting. Really good stuff. Anyway, so we'll include all that in the description box below. Right, Michael?
I will.
Thank you.
Now, this is the part.
This is a new thing that we didn't do last time you were on this show.
Okay.
And you can tell us what you think of it.
Okay.
Ryan?
I want to hear your explanation.
No, I want you to explain it to her, and I just want her to make a judgment on what she thinks of this, the name of this thing.
Okay. Lila, Michael created this thing that he likes to call the Terrible Twos.
Ryan did, okay.
And he likes to pretend like he didn't invent the name. He was really, he was really excited about this idea about called, the Terrible Twos. And, I'm kind of a pushover. So I was like, okay, whatever. But secretly, I didn't think it was a very good idea. I didn't think it was a very good name. Terrible Twos. Isn't that what they say about babies? I don't know.
Yeah. So, you can let us know, and then maybe we'll just scrap it from every episode from now on. And we won't ever have to do this again because apparently Ryan hates it. So.
What is it?
The best part is every guest we've ever had has no clue what the hell we're talking about. They're like, I think there's tension in the room.
I don't think that is the best part. I think that's probably the worst part about it. So,
anyway, so Mike likes to call them the Terrible Twos. I just roll with the punches. I just go with it. I don't really care one way or the other. And what it is it's look how confused Lila is. She's like,
confused.
I don't know what's happening.
Ryan loves to confuse our guests.
So it's the final two questions. They're really tough. It's like the hot seat. It's really
okay.
Now the first question.
But first, though, my first question to you is, what do you think of the name, the Terrible Twos?
My automatic reaction is like, what were the two most terrible things about the show?
Okay, so if you agree then that it's a terrible, bad name.
Terrible.
Is that it?
I just don't know what the concept is.
Right.
Maybe
it
makes perfect sense.
It doesn't, though. Okay. Ryan, go ahead.
Okay. So the Terrible Twos. It's the final two questions of the show. The first one is, on a scale of 1 to 10, what would you give the first episode of Spaced, which was called, by the way, Beginnings? Michael, scale of 1 to 10.
I would give this one, honestly, 9.5. 9.5. Wow. Final answer.
Wow, you love this show.
You have anything to add to the 9.5? Any reasoning?
Just it's a solid show. It's really good. Really, the only reason it doesn't get a 10 is because it's a little bit of low quality. But if it were higher quality, like it wasn't as grainy, it would get a 10 in my book. So.
Wow.
But even that is only enough to just bump it down half of a point. So.
Wow.
What
show do you love more than this? That might be a different.
No, that's a great
different
question.
Episode. But...
That's a great question.
Honestly, my favorite show of all time is Kids in the Hall. So that would be a 10.
Okay. I don't know what that is, but
it's sketch comedy from the 90s. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
WTF kids in the hall.
Yeah, they're okay. Well, Lila, I loved your question, by the way. Yeah, if this is a 9.5, what's a 10, right? Scale of 1 to 10, Lila Shacker, what would you give this? Lila D Shacker, by the way.
Me.
It's okay to say the same number that I said as well.
I'll say, oh my gosh, this is, you know what? Maybe Terrible Twos is a good name for this question.
Disagree. Okay.
Why
are you celebrating, Ryan? I thought I came up with the name.
Go ahead, Lila.
I will say, I'll say for personal reasons, probably like a 7.5 or so. Just because I really appreciate actors and like writing their thing and like okay, we don't like you said, it's not very like high quality and they didn't have much money, but they didn't let that stop them. They were just like, okay, right. This is what we got. This is what we're gonna do. Yep. I can definitely appreciate that.
So what did you give it? A 7.5?
7.5, yeah.
Yeah, that's right around where I'm hovering, either 7 or 7.5. I think I'm going to give it a 7.5 because, the low quality, honestly, they went with it. They almost embraced it. Mm-hmm. It makes it have that cult classic feel, or that, that favorite show that your buddy shows you or something like that. It is reminiscent of, the older shows. So that didn't bother me as much as it usually does. Usually if something is old or, low quality, I can't watch it. I'm too snobby for that crap. But this kind of embraced it, and, the director did a great job with all the quick cuts and the sound effects, and it just made it funnier, and the writing was very smart. So I give it a 7.5. Easily a 7.5.
You can go higher even than that, probably.
I considered it. I was kind of talking myself up. Well, the more I was talking about it, I was like, I better stop or I'm going to give it an 8. And I'm not too sure about that. But yeah, no, it was so much better than I expected after my initial disappointment when I thought I was watching a sci-fi thing. And I was like, oh, and it's British humor. Oh, I'm going to die. But it was good. It was good. It was fast. It was smart. It moved so quickly.
Yeah.
It moved mercifully quickly. So there was nothing long, nothing drawn out, nothing boring, solid. Now, the big question is, for the purposes of this podcast, we had to watch episode 1 of Spaced.
We got to watch episode
called
1.
Beginnings.
Pleasure.
But now that the podcast is over, would you watch episode 2 of your own volition? Michael Kenyon Rosenberg?
Yes. I'm already nodding yes.
Okay.
I would, absolutely, yes. I would watch a second time.
Lila, would you watch the second episode of your own volition?
Yes. Not because the first episode left me like I need to watch the second one. Like, I don't know if it's something that I can necessarily like binge watch, but it does strike me as a show where like the more you like, as it goes on and more characters are introduced, and you're kind of on board with the concept, it gets more funny.
This is another
mind you, there's only 14 episodes in the entire series. So.
Yeah, this is another one of those 50-50s for me. I don't think I would watch the second episode. I think it deserves to be watched a second episode to be watched. I just don't think I'm the guy for it. I think it certainly deserves a second episode watch because it was smart and funny and well written and all the things that you could hope for in a comedy. But I'm not interested enough. If somebody had it on, I'm sure I'd take a look. But I'm not interested in the characters enough or invested enough to want to see it. But I'm really on the fence about it. So I just want
to get this clear really quick. So you would watch the second of Red Dwarf, but you would not watch the second of Spaced.
Because Red Dwarf, like I said, it left me, even though I gave it a very low rating, it left me curious for the second episode. And I could very quickly and easily turn it off in the middle of that second episode and go, okay, curiosity has been, satiated. But in this one, I don't have curiosity for the second episode. There's no cliffhanger really. There's nothing that is making me say, oh, I got to find out what happens next. So although I think this show is light years better than Red Dwarf at least left me with almost a masochistic kind of curiosity where it's like, I hate that I want to see the next episode, but I kind of do. Whereas this one deserves it because it's well written, but I don't have any dying desire to see it. I don't need to. If it were on, I would check it out, but I'm not looking forward to it.
Judas.
Yeah. So this one
I'm going to tell Simon Pegg that you said that.
Scotty?
Yeah.
It's okay. Anyway.
He probably wouldn't listen to me anyway. He's like, who's this guy tweeting at me?
So what I'm trying to say, oh, by the way, guys, if you want us to watch and review the first episode of a show, say WTF Simpsons or WTF The Magic of Mrs. Maisel. What's that show?
The Marvelous Mrs. Maisel.
Yeah, WTF, whatever that was. Or WTF, the one where that guy. Who's
WTF that one show?
Who's that guy? Who's that guy from Third Rock from the Sun? The guy that's tall from Harry and the Hendersons?
John Lithgow?
Yeah. What was the Royal Family show that he was in? Where he plays like Winston Churchill or something?
Is it Churchill?
No, he plays like Winston Churchill.
What channel? What is it?
I think that was a movie.
No, it's a series. They know what it is. It's called like Royalty. So if you know the
name of it,
let us know.
If you know the name of that show, well, I got the for your consideration thing.
Tweet at The Incredible Husk.
For like the Emmys to nominate, and I think I watched the first episode of that. But
like
anyway,
the Queen.
Yeah, it's kind of like that. It's like a show where it's like about the. It's about.
Please, if you're gonna tell us to watch a show, tell us what the name of the show is. And then also tell us where we can watch it, please.
Everybody, I guarantee you, everybody that's watching this knows exactly the show I'm talking about. It's a very famous and good show. I watched the first episode or two, and it was good. It's about like the royal family, like in England, like 50 years ago or something. And Jonathan Lithgow plays like Winston Churchill, and there's like, Prince Harry or something like that. Prince Charles, maybe.
Oh.
Anyway, so say
so
WTF.
Whatever that show, yeah.
So all of you that know what that show is.
WTF, whatever that show is.
Oh, you know what? I'm going to find it right.
Nope, no, we have to move on now. It's the end. So also give us a thumbs up. Don't give us a thumbs down. Or if you do give us a thumbs down, hit that thumbs down again so it turns it into no thumbs. And then also leave us your comments. Hit the bell icon for notifications. And then that's it. Goodbye, everybody. This podcast was amazing.
It's called The Crown.
Oh, okay. Okay.
And everybody that's watching this totally knew that a long time ago. So the point is, WTF The Crown.
If you want to watch that.
That was a long point.
Yeah. Anyway, this podcast was fun and kind of dreary when we were talking about, dreary things.
This podcast was anger, pain, fear, aggression.
This podcast was filled with conflict.
Ooh, she's talking about your terrible twos, Mike.
I agree. We should dump it. Dump that name. You're right.
Well,
Everybody, please in the comments below, let us know if we should dump the name, the Terrible Twos. And if you think that we should keep it, just don't say anything.
Well, do you have a second choice for the name?
Nope.
Terrible Twos it is. All right. Thank you very much.
Wonderful Twos.
Kind of like that. That's kind of nice too.
Wonderful Twos.
It's more positive. That's for sure.
See?
Lila, thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
It's really cool that you were like our first guest on our first show, and you gave us a little nugget that we continue to use forever.
Yeah,
kind of like how Michael, added the Terrible Twos. You added, the final thing that. So anyway, guys, thank you all very much. Don't forget to hit the bell icon when you subscribe, and comment below. Give us a like. Give Mike some ideas of what you want to call the Terrible Twos instead of the Terrible Twos.
Instead of the Terrible Twos. Anything but.
Tenacious.
Ooh.
Tenacious. Does that even make sense?
Yeah, the tenacious.
It doesn't really that much, but I like it though still.
Yeah.
I mean, Terrible Twos doesn't really make sense either. So
Yeah,
but I don't like that one though.
Okay.
Anyway, thank you all very much for joining us, and we'll see you next time on Fallingtower's 20th anniversary. Watch the first podcast.